Paladins 2.0. Could it happen? Maybe. But what if I told you that it has already happened, but it got canceled? Yeah. Let's get into this. So, why am I even bringing Paladins 2 to the mix, to the conversation, doing a video about it, even to begin with? Well, because of this. Stuart, like 1 day ago, did this tweet. No promises, but if there were ever a Paladins 2, what would you want to see from it? What would your expectations be? Well, first of all, we need to analyze this in two different ways. Potentially is to actually looking for, the hype to see if it would, if it would be reasonable to actually to create Paladins 2. And if you're wondering who is Stuart Chisholm, who is Stu, well, he is the CEO of Hi-Rez. Well, technically speaking, he's one of the CEOs, or he's the vice CEO. I'm actually not certain. Yeah, no, he's CEO and he's president at Hi-Rez Studios. So, you have Harris, who was the founder of Hi-Rez, and well, he then went part ways. He's still the owner of Hi-Rez, but he created a second company called Prophecy Games, as to where he's developing now games that are sort of in the same world of Global Agenda or something, or Tribals. I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't matter. This is what we're talking here about, and this is what we want to talk about. So let's continue. We have to analyze this in two different ways. First of all, you could just be looking to see if people would indeed actually be hyped about it. We do have 94.6k views, and yet only 1,000 likes. So that's not very promising. But we can also look at in a different way, which is, and the day before Smite 2 got announced, Stu specifically went onto Twitter and said that, people all talking about that reminds of Smite 2. Sorry to burst your bubble, but Smite 2 was already dead in mind a long time ago. And then he posted a video of almost like 7 years ago of a little sketch video that they did, a little joke video they did of them talking about releasing Smite 2 at the launch of Smite 1 because, they need to keep updating stuff. So as you can see, that combined with the fact that Smite 2 then got announced the day after could either mean that he knows something and he already has it set in stone and he's just teasing us about it, acting like he doesn't know, acting like it's not possible, or this actually is just a legit question of ideas, and maybe if there's a good idea, maybe he'll consider trying to do it. But here's the thing. What if I told you, like I said at the start of the video, that Paladins 2 already did exist? I can't really disclose where exactly I got this information, but one thing I can promise, this is not breaking any NDAs, because this was not information provided by Hi-Rez on the AOC or the stream team or any other place where I would have signed the contract to prevent me from talking about it. But it definitely is from somebody which I can trust, a source, if you might say. And obviously I can't really disclose that source, but I can tell you, however, that it's not any Hi-Rez employee or dev that it's, currently in the game. It's definitely not any of that, but it's somebody I can trust. Somebody confirmed to me that Paladins 2 was indeed actually created. The idea for Paladins 2 was, and let me just zoom in here a little bit so you guys can see my beautiful hair. I'm joking, that's not the point. It's just, you guys are literally looking at the same picture the entire time while I'm talking and moving my hands and everything, and I'm in the little corner on the side there. It doesn't make any sense. But what if I told you that it did indeed already happen, but it got canceled? And that's why I have no hope whatsoever of Paladins 2 being a thing. Not only that, but there's another thing, which we'll talk about it, like that kind of defeats the purpose of Paladins 2. But Paladins 2 apparently already existed, as a test, obviously, where the game was not supposed to look like Paladins 1. It's not like Smite 2 and Smite 1. It's not the same thing. Paladins 2 was almost, at its heart, the same game modes, the same game, and I apologize for my phone. I don't even know where I have it, but it just became, a natural thing for when I'm recording, for little phone to have to do noises. But the game at its heart in modes, when it came to modes, would be the same thing, similar, but the creation of the characters was different. So essentially, you would create your own character. There would be characters of each class, like you'd have like a beefy tank, you could have a male or a female, create your own class almost. Champion, but inside of what class you would select, probably have some passives to that class itself, and then you could select abilities and weapons to build your own champion. And then new stuff would be added over to the future, new abilities, new items, and as such, you could actually make something incredibly OP, or just flat out shit. But yes, this was indeed a thing. It actually was created, and then it got this plug just pulled out because we're all very much likely either they had to, they didn't have the funds for it. Maybe Paladins started on the decline so fast that they just said, yeah, we can't do that. Or maybe this was around a time that they decided internally that they might want to do Smite 2. And as such, they canceled that project to focus on Smite 2, being a much more important project. And I'm not gonna lie, folks, for as much as I would say, that Smite is getting all the love and Paladins is not getting any love, it is only natural that Smite gets that and Paladins does not. Because if you guys didn't notice this, the player base of Smite is a lot higher on the spectrum of ages of who are playing the game. When it comes to Paladins, it's more on the younger side, and when it comes to Smite, it's more on the older side. We're talking about young adults, like late ages of teenagers, and possibly even some adults. When it comes to Paladins, we are talking about, young teenagers and young adults playing the game. As such, the money spent in the game is a lot less. And this has happened for a very long time. Paladins unfortunately had this idea of giving so much of free stuff that people got used to this exact same thing. And they wanted everything for free, or at least the most amount of things for free. But if you look at Smite, for example, they created this sort of habit for people to not expect a lot of free stuff. And in fact, they created so many expensive things, events, odysseys, packs, DLCs, and so on. People got used to spending money. In fact, you can't even complain because the Paladin skins require a lot more work and are a lot more polished. If you don't believe me, just go in game and look at the skins that came over from Smite, aka the Ruby skins. For those who don't know, those skins were imported from Smite. A developer decided to tell us that that was not correct. Either the developer lied or the developer was wrong. Because later on, somebody who is currently working at Smite confirmed to me, yeah, no, that was 100% imported. For some reason, the polys on every little thing you can see, from fingers to the 3P body, all looks exactly like Smite. Even the head sizes look different. Everything got imported. Okay, that was not created brand new. And if it was, then, well, then there's at least one or two devs wrong here that they probably just didn't know. So, I mean, that could happen. But when it comes to Paladins 2, it definitely did happen. It got canceled. Now, could it happen? I wouldn't say no. I mean, if you asked me 1 month ago if Smite 2 was going to happen, I probably wouldn't believe it. In fact, there was already data mines of it, and I just didn't know. I got confronted like a couple days before the announcement with, what do you think about Smite 2? And I'm like, it seems like a cool idea. And he's like, oh yeah, no, but that's happening. And I'm like, no, it's not. And he's like, yeah, it's been data mined months ago. In fact, so much so that it was on Reddit. And earlier this morning, Russia on Steam fucked up and put it on the news that Smite 2 was happening. And these prints were going all over, so they did indeed fucked up. But we're not talking about Smite. We're talking about Paladins. Honestly, if I were to see Paladins 2, what would my expectations be? I think there's a lot that Paladins is missing, unfortunately, that it lost along the entire game. Kill cams, top plays, 3P modes, PvE modes, alright, PVM modes, whatever you want to call it, farming modes, like waves of mobs or victors just showing up all the time, and you have to defend a specific point, and every wave it would be harder and more mobs or whatever. Almost like a zombies mode. Events where you could actually grind some free stuff, and you could also purchase a lot of good stuff. I hate limited skins, I'm gonna be honest, because when people join the game like 1 or 2 years later, after that skin has been released into the game, they have literally no chance of getting that skin, so that would be something I would toss away 100%. Even though I know a lot of people go like, oh, but the value, fuck the value, this isn't CSGO, son. Alright? The only thing I think when you talk about value, it is that you are planning on selling your fucking account of Paladins, and guess what? That shit ain't even, that's not allowed. It's against the rules of Paladins. So why the fuck are you worried about that? You still want to do it? Well, that's too bad. I don't care if you want to do things that are not allowed by the game. That's not my fault. But seriously, limited skins, that would be something I would not enjoy a lot. Recently, I started thinking also about the entire item store, and I feel like it's actually a cool idea. I know I said I didn't like it first, but now I started to think it does look like it's becoming more like Smite. And Smite has so many options, and you would think, oh, Smite is so complicated, so people don't like it. But the more I learn and the more I start to see the options, the combos of items, the decisions that I have to make, and all that together just makes the entire experience so much better, because it means there's a lot more to learn. There's a bigger curve of learning, right? And as such, that just makes the whole experience so much better. So much better. So if I was to say, yeah, the item store is a bit more complicated now, I would say go even further. Fuck it, like make it like Smite. You know, did you guys knew that Paladins was actually built on top of Smite? That's right. Paladins was built on top of the client of Smite. And Smite was built on top of the client of Global Agenda. Thus, the client being so fucked up that even if they did do Paladins 2, they couldn't import shit. They just couldn't, because this isn't Unreal Engine 3 anymore. It's like Unreal Engine 3.5.1.7 or some shit. Because there's just so many layers on top of each other. It doesn't work anymore. You can't even say it's Unreal Engine 3 anymore, right? And as such, I've already had imaginations, like I've dreamed of the day that they would build a mode where it would be third-person Paladins, literally in the Smite map of Conquest. You have to kill minions, level up. By the way, you used to have level up on Paladins. There's actually lines for when you're out of mana. So Paladins was actually supposed to come a little bit closer to look like Smite than what it is now. They just changed it up a little bit and it went in a complete different course. But they built it initially with almost that specific intent. Not exactly the MOBA map, but sort of, you know, the entire breaking gates and taking on siege engines and taking them over and having all of that. having levels. Every time you leveled up, you could get a card, or level up a card. You would, you'd pre-select cards you would want to show up, and you with each level you just level that up. I mean, if you've never seen Paladin Strike, you should, because Paladin Strike no longer exists, but it was almost as close as possible to Smite. It was like a hybrid between Smite and Paladins. So as you can see, what I'm saying is Paladins 2 could even have potentially stuff like that. And there's one final thing that I need to mention here. I know this video was too long for almost no reason, just because of a mention of Paladins 2, but some of this information you probably never heard before. There's a little bit of a catch here. You know, the entire thing I told you of Paladins 2 being like default characters, and then you would just build on top of them, change their looks, change their abilities and such, just pre-select classes and such. That would actually make sense. So much sense, because think about it this way: if they had to import every single character from Paladins 1, they would not be able to add any new voice lines to some of the champions. Some of the voice actors for some of these specific champions have already died, and some of them don't even want to work with Hyros anymore. All right, so we're not literally talking about gods where you can just change the voice back. I mean, yeah, you can try to get a voice actor as close as possible to what exists, but just the amount of work for that, just having to add brand new voice lines in case they wanted to create new modes and new stuff, it'd probably be a bit complicated. Just on that matter, obviously, that's not the most important thing. Honestly, I feel like Paladins 2 could happen, but I would have to spend a very big amount of time just coming up with ideas for it. So, instead of me being the one coming up with ideas, how about you guys come up with the ideas? How about you guys go into the comment section down below and you tell me what your expectations for Paladins 2 would be. Maybe I'll pass some of that information along. Who knows? But, there you have it, folks. Paladins 2. To be or not to be. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.